Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hyrule Chronicles Legend of Zelda D&D campaign. I am ArticulateT. This is part 2 of our special Centennial episode, having reached 100 episodes of regular content, and just having a bit of a fun time. With me, as always, I have Renji Vox being played by another lad.
That is me. Good evening.
I have Hikan Sio being played by Avrdal.
Hello.
I have Zayden Shari being played by RoboPirate.
Uh-oh.
Hello.
There you
There
go.
it is.
Yes. Okay.
Apparently my thing didn't want to pick up. Hi.
Okay. And I have Max being played by Kistrith.
Hello.
So, what happened last time, folks?
Well, last time on part 1 of our Centennial Beach episode. Huzzah! The Storm's Eye have escaped from the Plain of Lament and are safely back in Sarkosa. Taking their breakfast over at Thicket's Inn, our heroes find out there's to be a party that following evening, in somewhat dubious honor of the ousting of the Fairwind Trading Company. Curious about what might happen there, the Storm's Eye head over to the Zephyr's Favor, asking about business and getting a nice invitation to the soiree in the process. A quick stop at Flamgo's pet store turns into a less quick stop. Business is going well, but there is an offer from Holodrum to deal in exotic animals from that region. Before giving a go-ahead to their shopkeep, our heroes decide that a little discussion with the one making offer, a certain Mr. Phaedros, is in order. But before that, let's go to the beach. After some swimming and fishing, the Storm's Eye realize that old Simeon is still following them around, and with some writing in the sand and Renji's ability to see the magical essence of Simeon's ghost, I see dead people, some rudimentary communication is established. Speaking about Simeon's wishes for possible resurrection in limited ways, the Storm's Eye decide to prepare for tonight's events and to return to the beach the following morning to finalize their plans.
Okay, excellent. Yes, and soon we so we return to our heroes who have been relaxing at the beach for this for this day. Now, was there anything in particular anybody would like to do before the soiree happens in the evening?
So out of it last time, I don't
Just,
remember.
I have one thing, but nothing nothing very special.
Okay. Zayden, you were saying something real quick.
I was thinking, I was so out of it last time, I don't remember what I did.
Ah.
Mostly chilled.
Yeah.
And had to roll a couple of checks because you couldn't talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did not have a very good what was the thing? You had a quite a heavy
That
cold.
bug. That bug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I had known that I was going to be asked this question, I would have gotten together like a stack of papers and pounded them on my desk and be like, so, but I don't have the joke ready, and there's not really much else that I'd want to do.
Unfortunate.
Can't think of anything.
Okay. So
my thing was just Renji is going to make sure that his like his clothes, his armor is as polished and mirror sheen as possible.
yes, the that's perfectly fine. If there's unfortunately, because you are away from Hyrule Castletown, you don't have access to the Royal Tale of Vermilion, nor do you have access to Ike. So if there was any kind of
I think I mean, with my mithril breastplate and Sheikah cloak, I I know I strike a figure, so that's not too much of an issue. And we can just say like we flew in.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if we really want to make a statement, I could always polish my armor.
Oh, I'm not certain if that's an innuendo or not.
It was not an innuendo. It's the thing that was the classic D&D meme, which was, oh, so what were you doing last night, barbarian? Polishing my armor? What armor? And then it's just a yoked out dude covered in oil.
I
Yes.
see.
So it was an innuendo.
Cool. But yeah. Of course, there are bits and bobs and places around Sarkosa that you're able to go to if there are indeed the need for touching up. But otherwise, you even if you were to check in with Rayburn, he wouldn't say that you can't come if you're not dressed super duper finely. It is.
Besides, we're barons.
Yeah.
He might not know this yet. I don't think I would tell him.
We didn't mention it.
No, we did not.
No. Yeah, the subject of your barony hasn't come up just yet.
No, I'm keeping that in the pocket for any pompous and who might you be kind of people. That they're talking to at least was Mara made a baroness?
Yep.
So with Mara present, they are talking to 5/6 of the barony of Artemark.
Yes.
Okay.
But yes. So with not much else to do, you spend more or less the rest of the daylight just either relaxing by the beach or just spending time within Sarkosa, just away from the trials and tribulations that individuals of your station are typically expected to do. And soon, as the sun sets, and the sky, completely devoid of clouds, becomes this remarkable vista of stars upon a blank black canvas. You can see the torches are being lit along the dock, and it all kind of leads to what appears to be a very opulent-looking frigate that is sitting by itself within a dock, within one of the harbour areas, one of the non-trade company areas. And it's being attended to by quite a few guards. And even as you approach, you can hear the polite murmur of conversation, and much in the same way that any form of Regency sort of social event happens. You kind of have this titter of conversation punctuated with someone obviously telling a joke and a raucous bout of polite laughter being heard. It appears most of the actual party is happening on the top deck, making better use of the good weather and the nice night sky. A kind of, I think this is the right. Yes. There's a nice little kind of party sort of band playing, a very small sort of 5 or 6 person collection of musicians who are essentially just employed to, you play this song, it's nice and gentle, play it on loop for as long as required.
You play this song and only this song.
And only this song.
Okay.
And it serves as fairly okay backing music for the most part. Of course, there could be like a bit more being played in different scenarios, but by all means, it's their party. Like we don't have control over the DJ just yet.
Not yet, but
Not
when a
yet.
fight breaks out, we will. That is priority number one.
Yeah.
Also, when you mentioned that it is held on a frigate,
I'm pretty sure if
Uh,
Max asked whatever the opposite of nicely is, the DJ would do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
see, in that case, I can be. We can play it off good Baron, bad Baron. I could persuade him with a plus 15, and you have a plus 15 on Intimidate, right? Or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but when you mentioned that it's on a frigate, I had two thoughts. One, the ship is going to go up in flames
Uh-huh.
and sink. Or we do something and the ship sinks regardless.
I don't plan to be on it when it sinks, so you know,
Yeah.
not
I
my
mean,
problem.
fair. Me neither.
But yeah. So the as you kind of begin approaching, and you see that there is one very well dressed individual who's standing by the ramp onto the ship, who's just stopping people briefly to make polite conversation with them and then ask for their credentials. Nearby the ramp, you see the familiar silhouette of Kalish Rayburn, head of the Zephyr's Favor trading company. He seems to be very well dressed. It's like a sort of suit and jacket sort of attire, but it's of this sort of pale sky blue color, and there's these essentially all the lines of it are accented in this silver. And it's this very kind of sweeping attire that looks to be reminiscent of waves on the sea. And he
Very stylish, I say, as I walk up to him, bow and or shake his hand or whatever the respectful and appropriate way is of greeting a man of his stature.
he kind of bows his head lightly as he gladly shakes your hand. He says, well, you know, it serves well to keep the moths out if you put this on every so often. I thought it best to wait for you on the way in. I do not know how particular the door person is in this particular instance. So long as I am with you, they will know that you are, at the very least, part of my own entourage.
That is very considerate, Mr. Rayburn.
So, he kind of, like, counts your numbers, sees that the 5 of you are there, and is like, very well, if we are all set to go. And he makes his way over to the person playing doorkeeper, and they look over and says, hello, welcome. It is good to see you this evening. Might I ask for your credentials, please? And Mr. Raymond says, yes. I am Kalish Rayburn, Chief Operating Officer of the Zephyr's Favor Trading Company, and I have brought with me the fine representatives of Hyrule and the active heroism members of the Storm's Eye. And the door person goes, excellent. People of prestige, welcome. By all means, make your way up. There is a table with hors d'oeuvres just on the towards the prow of the ship, and of course you're free to mingle and dance as you please. But the proceedings will continue on for a few hours, and of course the captain will ring the bell when everybody needs to depart for the evening. And he says, very well, thank you. Follow me. And Mr. Rayburn makes his way up onto the ship. He's carrying with him a cane, which he doesn't actually use to support himself. It's quite literally just a fashion statement thing.
Fair enough.
Statement that could be used as a shillelagh.
Quite possibly.
Indeed. I also have a question. Would I know how fast any sort of royal proclamation travels. I know that Sarkosa is more of a free port than anything. But what would be, say, the king anointing someone to baronship? How common knowledge would that be?
Well, word probably travels quite quickly. And given that it was more than 2 weeks ago that you were made barons, so it's possible that word has come out, at the very least in Sarkosa, word has occurred that there are some new barons and there is a new barony in Hyrule Castle, or like in Hyrule Field. That's the minimum that you can expect people to be aware of. They might not know it's you. They might not know the exact nature of it, but yeah.
All right. So it's when we were to bring it up, that would not come as a complete shock.
There'll be, with your like passive insight and your knowledge of high society sort of affairs, if anything, there might be like a raised eyebrows and a "oh, I see" sort of thing as far as the level of surprise goes. Whether or not they are fully super duper surprised, it would be hard to tell immediately because of like training or anything like that individuals might have. Yeah. But yes. So as you make your way up, unlike the previous parties that you've been to, such as in the royal galas, there is no one to announce your presence here. You simply enter the party, and there are basically guards dotted around the ship. They're all Sarkosan town guards, and there is there's just a lot of people. Mostly men, all besuited, and while there are a fair few women there, it is a predominantly male affair. It kind of occurs to you that a lot of this is to do with the fact that this is more or less kind of a business meeting sort of venture, and whether that means that all the people here aren't necessarily like families and couples or anything like that. It's might just be predominantly these are people who are on business from the various merchant kingdoms of the Holodrum Island. But they all seem to be having a good old time, just kind of politely talking to each other. You overhear bits and pieces of information that comes from it, mostly being like the kind of talk of sports and games, the kind of boorish thing that a lot of high society folks would usually do, like the equivalent of lots of golf talk or lots of croquet talk.
No.
I was going to say, Max in particular, you probably just overhear a few strung sentences between conversations, and immediately it's just
blah 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 blah
yeah,
blah 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 blah.
just
Max
automatically turned off.
Max is just going to find a wall.
That's fine.
If he can't, he will just pretend one is there at the railings.
Yeah. There's a railing that you can stand by where there is a suitable gap between guards that you just kind of sit and watch. There's Mr. Rayburn kind of turns to you and says, "Well, you're more than welcome to accompany me as I go around and make myself known to the various business associates. Alternatively, if you wish to wander by yourself, by all means. This is effectively meant to be a polite social encounter, no doubt. Anybody that you would like me to point you towards, perhaps?"
Well, I wouldn't say no to an introduction to Mr. Nathaniel Phaedros, I believe.
Ah, yes, of course. Not a problem. And he kind of like looks around and sees Max already gone. It's like, Turns to Zayden and Hikan and Mara and says, and are yourselves, are you particularly wishing to make the rounds, as it were, or you wish to accompany myself and Renji?
Go with you, as I have no idea who most of these people are.
I think Hikan's just gonna wander.
Okay. That's fine. So, Mr. Rayburn will lead Renji and Zayden through the crowds and towards one individual. He's about average height for a Hylian. He seems to have a very well-defined square jaw. He wears a very opulent-looking suit. And he has this kind of thick, black, wavy hair, as he kind of just is. He seems to be the center of the conversation when it comes to another collection of individuals. And then he turns to Rayburn and says, "Ah, excellent. Hello, welcome to the party, Mr. Rayburn." And he goes over and he does that hand, you know, the kind of power play handshake where he grabs the hand and pulls them in. That sort of thing.
The Trump one.
Yeah. Except in this case, Nathaniel Phaedros seems to have the the physical, the physical body to be able to pull that off. But
I do not have the strength to. I don't think I have the strength to counter this.
Yeah, he does it to all of you, and will only hold off if in the event that you shy away from his hand.
I don't think I will shy away. I'm trying to figure out if I can use my charisma to kind of get the upper hand here.
Okay. Let's see. Give me a. Let's make it a contested flat charisma.
Tested flat charisma. Okay.
Yeah. So I roll my charisma. Well, I'll roll Nathaniel's charisma, and you can roll yours, and we'll see how we go.
That is a 12.
12. Okay. You do an admirable job of trying to balance the power struggle there within that micro
See, if this was
moment.
persuasion, that would have been a 22.
Yeah. But unfortunately, Nathaniel seems to. I think probably because he comes in quite quickly. It's a lot of personality right in your face at that moment, which kind of knocks you off balance a bit. And he just, well, welcome to meet you. And he does the same with Zayden. Do you want to do the same contesting thing, or do you just want to let it happen?
Zayden will give himself some guidance subtly whilst he's attacking Renji. And then I will I'll contest with athletics. It's technically worse, but Zayden's not really.
It's charisma and charisma alone, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
Better.
It is a battle of personalities.
18 plus 21.
Okay. Yeah. With that one, he kind of reaches over and shakes your hand. You manage to kind of plant your feet, straighten your back, and pull him towards you more. And he's like, "Aha! Good, strong handshake. Excellent. So, Mr. Rayburn, excellent. Welcome to see you. I was hoping to catch up with you sooner." He said, "Ah, yes, excellent. Good to see you too, Mr. Phaedros. Allow me to introduce you to a pair of my associates here. This would be Renji and Zayden. They are members of the Storm's Eye." And Nathaniel Phaedros
Pleasure
goes,
to meet you.
"Oh, the Storm's Eye. Yes, we heard about this in the missives. Well done indeed for your work that you have done in this fair town. I must admit, it was quite startling when we heard news about Fairwind's activities, eh?"
Indeed, but we are very glad that sordid affair has been concluded.
Absolutely. As you may well know, Holodrum has a fair number of trade negotiations and connections around the world, including the fair kingdom of Hyrule, and it would be rather unfortunate if that were to be marred by some insidious individual who was utilizing such a trade route for their own gain. So it is good that you have done this sort of thing for the good of the kingdom and for the good of this town as well. I hear it was quite a messy situation, eh?
It's very high praise from you to speak so lofty of our accomplishments. Thank you very much. In fact, one of the trade opportunities happens to be with a company that me and Zaiden, well, we represent about... we represent 40% of a shareholder of the Flamgo's pet shop business.
Oh
that is,
my,
in our
such
harbor here.
such a small world. You own the business that is Flamgo's pet store?
Well, the two of us only hold 40% stock, but yes, we are very well acquainted with the other owners.
I see. Well, it's a good thing I met you. I did send the fine chap a missive in regards to potentially expanding his stock.
Yes, we have
yes.
heard. Flamgo was very quick in delivering us this news when once we were in town. It is also something that I would like to discuss with you, or at least we would like to discuss with you. Perhaps later on in the evening. I do not wish to take you away immediately from your companions here.
Oh, by all means. Yes, we do need to have a little bit of mingling, a little bit of drink, and a little bit of food before we get down to brass tacks. Now, at the moment, it is simply just speaking to others, ensuring that everyone who arrives to the party is feeling as welcome as possible. And I certainly hope that the same can be said for you. Feel free, by the way, to wander about. The Glint of Fortune is by far very, very accommodating vessel, and I'm particularly proud to have it as part of our fleet.
Thank you very much, and I am sure that we have plenty to talk about later on.
Now, if you, by all means, as the invitation to wander has been presented to you, that does not mean that you have to go away so far. I was just delighting these fine individuals in regards to conversations about particular brands of horse racing, eh? And he just turns to the others, and they all kind of like raise a glass and just say, yes. There is a mixture of wanting to change the subject or being quite like, even as far as potential extroverts or dedicated business folk are, Nathaniel's quite a person. He's
also, in the meanwhile, I have one hand kind of behind my back, and I'm trying to keep up with casting prestidigitation to write messages on my hand about what is going on, in the hope, or with the possibility in mind, that Lord Simeon is in attendance and is reading or like looking over my shoulder, so that he is in on what's happening.
I see indeed. Okay, no worries. But yeah, you're like, people are too far concerned with the social aspect of this little gathering that no one seems to pay much mind, if any, to anything there. But yes, as he kind of makes mention of that, he turns his attention more to the crowd as a whole that he's got around him, and begins to continue on about playful little anecdotes in regards to horse racing and other horse sports and all the kind of just generally just that's his go-to topic of conversation. And Mr. Rayburn,
I can keep up with him. I have many stories about Pom and riding across the Hyrule field. So.
Yeah. Mr. Rayburn kind of immediately, like, it's at this point that he lowers his cane and leans on it, as if he's kind of in a practice state of, stand
Grin
straight,
and
listen, and endure. And yes. So as that is happening, we will go over to Hikan. Hikan, as you are wandering, are you wandering in any particular direction for the most part, or?
No, nowhere in particular. Just kind of listening around and seeing if there's anything that gathers my attention. Because unlike Max, who just doesn't like people, Hikon's just kind of like, I don't get this, but he's here for support.
Oh dear. I'm going to say that Mara joins you on this wandering thing. Mostly like of a slightly different mindset in that she just doesn't really kind of know where to start. And as you make your way through the crowd, there is an individual who catches your eye, and or that rather he tries to, and as he kind of sees you, he immediately seems to break conversation with someone he's already been talking to and wanders over to you. This gentleman is quite large, in that he's very broad-shouldered, and the outfit that he's wearing also kind of adds to that size. It's very long draping robes and of like blacks and golds with sequins and stuff in it. Not necessarily over the top, just something that is like you take a glance at it and it's like, rich. And he kind of has this very, very well manicured, sort of very well brushed and maintained silver hair that contrasts with his tan skin. And he kind of looks over you and says, interesting attire that you have there, my friend.
Thanks. Would Renji have given a crash course in basic etiquette?
Would Hikan have asked?
No.
Then maybe at most some tips and like just be polite, and if you really have trouble, if you need to get out of a conversation, maybe I think Renji would have given some tips of like excuses to use to solve an issue such as that.
Mm-hmm.
Need to leave and wash my hair.
My friend is waving me over there. I need to go talk to them.
For
Yeah.
instance, yes.
So in being told that his outfit is interesting, Hikan will just respond with, then in this particular case, thanks, I like your hair.
Oh, thank you very much. It's nice to make your acquaintance. My name is Armin Knox. I'm of the Jadescope Mineral Concern in Holodrum. I do not believe I know a fair number of individuals upon this vessel, but I do not believe I have made your acquaintance before.
Oh, yeah, I'm Hikan. I helped. I'm a member of the Storm's Eye. I helped some people with some trouble that they had here in Sarcosa. One of which being and I point out Rayburn.
Oh, I see. You know Mr. Ray. Wait. The storm. He kind of like taps his chin briefly as he thinks it, then recognizes the details. Yes, that fiendish business with Nathaniel Fairwind. Yes. Well, that is quite an interesting tale. We had no direct connections with Mr. Fairwind, of course. There was it was not a business venture that either of us were particularly fond of. He was more fond of trinkets and other already made goods that could be immediately sold upon their arrival. He was not particularly fond of raw material that myself and the rest of the Jade Scope Mineral concern are likely to provide, but in any case, it is good to see that the situation has been resolved.
Yeah. He's also doing other bad things.
Oh? Oh, right,
If you-
yes.
I was gonna
Of
say,
course.
Mahalo doesn't stop him. Hikan will go on about how he was a member of an underground cartel bent on causing war.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And he kind of like nods as you explain. He says, yes. Well, I suppose there could have been some form of profit in war, but really it's a short-term profit that one could... Like, he doesn't get the moral concern of it as he begins to respond. He just gets the whole, it doesn't seem like a good business plan, really.
War is not profitable for this. Like, if you're causing war.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just stumped on the whole sort of whether, like, what is the business model? How would one like he's trying to solve a conundrum that doesn't need solving, as opposed to being like, oh my god, people died and were tortured and it was horrible. Oh dear. Sort of, yeah.
Oh no.
But it's not like a case of.
I think if he solves that, he'll be next on our list.
The ironic thing about this situation is, while I understand what he's trying to do, Hikan probably doesn't, given the focus in regards to it. So it's two people that agree on something from wildly different conclusions.
Yep.
It's one of those things where it's like it's the polite version of two people who are arguing the same point. It's just, oh dear. But yeah, and Mara just kind of quietly listens in as she looks around the gathering. It's still unsure exactly where to go after this, after interacting with Mr. Knox, who just kind of eventually, after a moment, kind of drops the point and says, well, it's good at the very least to make your acquaintance. Have you been to one of these little get-togethers before? I know it has been quite a while since a Holodrum delegation has arrived in Sarkosa in such a fashion.
Oh man. See, like, I'm sitting here thinking, if Hikan drops what he's been to, it sounds like a humble brag, but Hikan does not mean it that way. And will mention the fact that he did go to a royal gala at one point in the castle.
Oh, really? How interesting. Though I suppose from what we have heard, things have been quite exciting, to put it in one mild term, within the Kingdom of Hyrule, yes?
Yeah, that gala is when a lot of stuff happened. I don't know if there's gonna be another one, but things seem to be looking better, at least.
That's good, that's good. And hopefully when our little business trip here has been concluded, they will continue to look better as we forge a new and stronger trade route and connection between Holodrum and the Kingdom of Hyrule.
Yeah.
And then he kind of, after a moment, just says, I don't know when they will be providing anything else, but I do recommend, and he turns and gestures to this long buffet table at like near the prow, where there are a variety of different exotic foods and everything. And he says, there is a few delectable fish dishes on that table over yonder. I would highly recommend getting in your fill before other people begin to get peckish. I do not know how often that they will get there. And, of course, there is one other thing I would like to recommend. there is a rosé wine that they have provided, one of the finest brands that has ever come from Holodrum. Makes quite a splash, I would say. Yes.
Now, I don't
But
know much about alcohol, but since he brought it up, I think at this point is, as Hikan kind of turns and starts going, is when they are on the exact same page and Hikan is talking about intricacies of wines.
yes. And interestingly enough, as you kind of get into that, he finds like he manages to keep pace. He's very kind of he begins to talk in the same terms that a wine taster would, and just kind of like he names a brand, he names the type of wine it is, and then he will just go on to like the year and all that kind of stuff. It's he seems to have found something of a friend in Hikan for the moment.
At
And
least
Mara,
about this.
yeah, and Mara just kind of stands and
Synchronization
quietly
achieved.
listens. But yes.
That being said, when it does end, because I remember Max said something about fish before I completely vore the buffet table, I will make Max a plate.
Okay. Yeah. Meanwhile, Max, you've situated yourself on a nice little spot that seems fairly divorced from the rest of the party. You can see all these different people parading around and discussing all these different things. None of it, as far as you can tell from what little you may be paying attention to, seems to be discussing any kind of deal or contract or business or anything like that. It's just...
So Max, it's like, I understand these words. I do not understand the sentences they've been put in.
Yeah. It is... one would quite accurately call it pretentious small talk. And it's...
small talk, my one weakness.
You're more of big talk.
Yeah, no one seems to, like, maybe there's a couple of side-eye glances towards you. Not in the sense of, like, people are too afraid to approach you. It's just that because you have situated yourself alone by the banister, they have decided to keep away from that area because it means sacrificing the conversation that they are already with. And since they don't know, and since no one really can recognize you by sight, it's quite clear that they can't see you as a potential business partner. So, yeah. However, there is one individual who kind of wanders over, but doesn't get too close. They kind of just keep their 6 feet distance and lean against the rail nearby with you. There's this fairly tall, willowy woman who is wearing this very beautiful sequin dress that seems to have this kind of iridescence to it. And she has this sort of matching fascinator hat and long silk gloves, and she leans against the rail briefly and kind of intertwines her fingers and says, "It is quite boring, isn't it?"
It takes Max a second to realize that she's talking to him. And he just says, I'm just waiting for my friends to be done with this shit. Because Max wasn't paying attention to Renji's lecture on how to be nice at parties.
Mm-hmm.
She nods a little and says, "Yes, well, I wish I had such an excuse, but unfortunately, it is part of the job."
Sounds like a bad job.
Well, true. It does come with a lot of money, though, so I can't complain. My name is Quintessa DeVore, by the way. I am a scholar and trader of arcane mysteries. Whom might you be?
Max.
Well, it is nice to meet you, Max. In truth, there are not very many arcane mysteries that can be had in Holodrum, but that just means that they are they are quite valuable.
Max starts getting a little uncomfortable because he knows he is an arcane mystery. Yeah, I guess they would be.
Hmm. And like she kind of sits in fairly awkward silence for the moment. There's no kind of like she isn't like observing you or anything. She's just kind of like, it's this is the quiet spot. I will maintain the quiet spot for the moment, and then well, I suppose I have recharged to some extent. I do need to go and mingle a bit more. It was nice sharing this section of the ship with you for the short amount of time. I do hope that whatever remains of your evening tonight will be at least more pleasant than it currently is. And she bows her head lightly and wanders back into the crowd.
Rude.
And
Is that me or her being rude?
I think she's being rude. It's like, I can see that you're not having fun.
Bye!
You
Yeah,
kind
Look,
of,
not all of us are good at small talk.
I'm terrible at it.
oh dear. But yes, as you after a moment, you are left in silence for a period of time before eventually you are briefly joined by Hikan and Mara. Hikan has provided you with a plate of delectable food from the buffet table.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I figured, because like you like the fish thing, and so I know you're not big on these, so I figured I'd bring you something that you might like.
Why are they all so tiny?
I don't know. It seems very, what's the word? Counterintuitive. Yes.
Yeah, that's probably it.
It's something to do with your hands, I suppose. It's not meant to be kind of a meal, but it's like to just something that you hold or do with your hands for while you're making small talk, at least as far as I can tell.
But they already have snack-sized things like that, like grapes.
Well, yeah, but grapes aren't fancy enough.
Wine's
Yeah,
fancy.
I don't get it either. I'm sorry.
Max is about to try one, realizes he's about to pick it up with the magic gauntlet, and then swaps hands.
To your point about wine being fancy, you don't eat wine with your hands usually.
Yes, you do. You lift the cup. So you're supposed to eat. I get it.
Yeah.
You have a big trough of wine and you have to scoop it out with your hands.
It's an advanced technique for wine tasting, don't you see? But yeah. As you are kind of talking, your passive perceptions are very, very good, so I won't bother making you roll.
Mine is now up to 22.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So the three of you, because you're not currently in the middle of a conversation with very pretentious business people, you get a chance to glance over to people coming up the ramp. At first, you see what appears to be the very frazzled owner of the Brass Bell Trading Company, who is still in business. But it's clear that
Good for him.
as far as he is capable, is just supposedly the amount of busyness that he's had to endure during the course of Fairwind's tenure as a potential competitor means that he is now hard-coded to being capable of relaxing.
If he relaxes, he will pass out for a week.
Yeah. But yeah, Mr. Archer Goldseer is like he comes up the ramp. He's in a slightly more formal version of the attire he was wearing when you first met him. And you can see he stands straight, and there's a slight twitch to his eye, and like the faintest impression of a vein on his temple as he's just kind of like looking around. It's like, okay, I need to speak to people, I need to make business deals, and then I need to get back to work. And just like he stops only briefly to scan the crowd and then moves in to try and speak to other individuals.
Conversation detected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Engage, witty, repartee.
But yeah, as so he
Did
he
you see
moves
that
in.
ludicrous display last night?
It's like radar, but instead of the bong, it's how do you do? How do you do? How do you do? But yeah, so he immediately enters the crowd and begins mingling as best he can, and a few more people enter in, but then two individuals catch your eye as they arrive. Both of them women. One of them appears to be fairly tall, broad-shouldered, long red hair, and she appears to be wearing a fairly practical evening gown. And
Naruto?
you know,
Oh.
you recognize, you may recognize this from previous galas. This is Lady Milrose, the Lady of Commerce for Hyrule Castletown, and next to
I
her,
recognize her. I talked to her.
next to her, slightly shorter, and wearing something a bit more fancy, but in the blacks and purples that she usually wears, is Lady Risha, and they're flanked by Hylian guards. They kind of have a look around. As they look about,
I'm
Lady
not in
Risha.
stealth mode or in any sense. And I don't think I would want to hide from them.
No,
Yeah.
see, they're rolling a perception to see if they see the noisy guy with us, and they decide not to come this way.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or did they detect Max's aura of menace?
Like, the two of them look over. Lady Risha just begins looking over the crowd slightly, just not particularly interested. Lady Milrose does the same, but then her eyes lock on the trio by the, like, that have separated themselves from the crowd, and she smiles slightly and then gives Risha a tap on the shoulder, and begins making her way over.
You've been rumbled.
Jesus.
And she
Jump
says,
overboard.
Lady says, "Ah, well, if it isn't three of the barons of Hyrule, or Artemak more specifically, it's good to see you. Very interesting to see you here, in fact."
Milrose used to be an adventurer, right?
Yes.
Okay. And since I believe that was something that Hikan was well aware of, so Hikan's will actually meant, oh yeah, well, it's just kind of timing after coming back from a different plane and all that fun stuff.
It was Ranji's idea.
I see. Well, that is to be expected. But in any case, it is actually good to see that there are familiar faces among this gathering. And she kind of looks back over the crowd and kind of contemplates it. I never was one for any of these things. They were just too many people trying to put on a facade for the sake of profit. It is rather tiresome. But I suppose it must be done. Have you been here long?
How long have we been here?
It's been about half an hour, 45 minutes.
About half an hour, 45 minutes.
Yes. Ah,
So far, I
see.
don't think anyone has actually said anything.
Oh, well, that is typically the way of things when it comes to this sort of scenario. In most cases, I don't blame you for having to for wanting to be separate from it. I wish I could join you, but work must be done. I don't know if were you aware that we were making our way here? It seems a bit.
No.
We literally came back yesterday.
I see. Very well. Well, just for the sake of transparency, considering your political station, we are, of course, here in order to make sure that any trade negotiations between Hyrule and Holodrum remain amicable, considering what had marred the connection previously.
Yeah, everyone I've talked to, which would be the one guy over there, and I point out Armand Knox, seems to think that it was kind of a good thing, but, I mean, if they're not really saying anything, then Khan kind of shrugs.
Lady Risha looks over and, like, the tactical part of her mind kind of kicks in and says, yes, well, it would be. Of course, if they were to simply come out and say that they would have rather Mr. Fairwind continue his nefarious deeds, then that would spell effectively doom for any kind of amicable trade between our two nations. They have to be pleased with the outcome of the situation. In any case, I think it might be best if the two of us were to get to work in some capacity. I can't imagine that it will take much time. If you feel the need to seek us out, by all means, just come and speak to us, and we'll be more than happy to ensure that everything is well.
Could I roll an insight check to see if it's this particular work or if Risha's open to talking about other aspects of her job?
Sure.
Because like one of the other things, like I know our plan was go to Zora's Domain, go down to the Ziggurat, go up to Hyrule Castle Town, talk to Lady Risha, go down to the World's End, and have a pint, wait for all this to blow over. But after going to Hyrule Castle Town, going to where the Civil War is the strongest at the moment to go hunt Cassandra and Delilah, and wanted to talk to Risha about that because we're going behind enemy lines. He's kind of in charge of that, so that's what I'm looking for in particular.
Yeah. Okay. Give me an insight check.
Okay. 25.
Nice. So with the 25, you can see that there is a level that of something that she wants to talk to you all about anyway. Like she, considering the last time you spoke to her or interacted with her, she was not well. And so she's very much back in form a little bit at the very least. She is maintaining a professional facade. If she seems a little bit blue still, but otherwise there is a part of her intonation and like her facial expression that basically communicates to you that she wanted to talk to you guys about something anyway, relatively soon.
All of us as a group?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, before they head off, Hikan will go, what if we wanted to talk to you guys, like, after the party or something? Are you guys going back to Hyrule Castle Town afterwards?
Seems a little late to go back to Hyrule Castle Town so soon after the party. We will be staying in Sarkosa, at least briefly, but we will be making our way back in the morning.
Where at?
We have been provided rooms at the Sarkosa Inn.
And we didn't know they were there.
What a coincidence.
In all honesty, they probably arrived while you guys were at the beach, and
That's fair.
Yeah.
Do we need to bring them to the beach so that they can talk? Actually, we don't need to go to the beach necessarily to talk with Lord Simeon.
You just need some paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
prestidigitation, as I'm doing right now.
Okay. Yeah. That's good. We're staying there too. So if we need to catch up or talk to things, so that way we're not getting in the way of business or job stuff, we can talk later.
Sure. Okay, very well. If that's the case, then by all means, we have work to attend to, of course, so we shall bid you adieu. And the two of them venture off into the crowd. It seems that Milrose is just making a beeline for the various people that she needs to interact with. And let's see. During that period of time, would Zayden and Renji, or either of them, have extricated themselves away from Nathaniel's conversation?
Honestly,
Lecture.
if he keeps talking about significant things, I think I would excuse myself and say that I would see him later on to discuss terms and what he might be like, what he has in mind, and just kind of find my way around and maybe meet up with the rest.
Okay.
Unless
That's
he
fine.
specifically thinks like, oh, in that case, well, then we're going to do this and join back into the party afterwards.
Okay. After, like, as you, or Zayden, are you going to be joining Renji in that one?
Yeah. I'll stick with Renji. Stay as a
Okay.
team.
Yeah. So as you, Mr. Rayburn eventually picks up the courage in his own way to depart from the conversation and goes to speak with some of the other major representatives that are here in this party. As you are making your way back, let's see who you may run into before you reach the rest of the party. Interesting. So as you make your way through the crowd, you don't necessarily. It's not very difficult to move between people. There is enough space that you don't have to like squeeze between others or anything like that. But as you kind of
on my feet.
Yeah, as you round one corner of people coming around that same corner, going in the opposite direction, you both meet Lady Milrose and Lady Risha. And they kind of stop briefly. Milrose recognizes the both of you and smiles and says, "Ah, then there's the rest of you. Excellent. Well, it's good to
Your
see you both
ladyships.
here."
Indeed. We were not aware of your presence.
Oh, no. Diplomatic sort of thing, of course. Just so you are also aware, we are here for the purposes of ensuring that any trade between Hyrule and Holodrum goes smoothly, considering what had marred the previous one.
Understandable, yes. In fact, later on, I will be talking some business with Mr. Phaedros concerning a business deal with one of our holdings here.
Oh, very interesting indeed. How delightful. If that is the case, then it seems that work has already been cut out. I do not know if you wish to, considering your holding within Artemark, you wish to discuss any independent trade for your particular settlement. Of course, any trade that has been discussed between Hyrule itself and Holodrum will obviously benefit your new barony, but, well, the other matter, of course, is whether or not you had anything in particular you wanted for your little slice of Hyrule, no?
Honestly, that hadn't really crossed my mind just yet. The trade talks I was mentioning mainly have to deal with the import of animals. If they are domesticated and or fit for domestic what's the word?
Living? Domestic living?
Yeah, domestic living, as if they're
Ownership.
fit for being pets, as Flamgo, our business associate and manager of our store here, is managing a pet shop.
Like, Risha kind of just nods slightly as like, okay, makes sense. And Milrose just raises the brow and says, domesticated animals from Holodrum.
We have heard that most fauna there is dangerous, and as such, I would like guarantees that the animals being imported were not a danger to either themselves or anyone keeping them.
Right. Well, you have been around this kingdom as much as most of us, if not more so. So we do trust you in that regard. But be wary. The merchant kings of Holodrum are quite crafty. They wouldn't be merchant kings if they weren't.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Let me assure you that I am very capable of persuading people to my point of view, and Zain here is very capable of sussing out the intentions of others.
Of course. Well, if that is the case, then we shall leave you to your mingling, as it were.
And of course, and if there's anything else, please let me know. Unfortunately, I was not aware of your presence here before meeting, but that was also due to a unfortunate happenstance on our side that we were indisposed for the last 2 weeks. And I think Renji, like, there's a look on his face, like, how long has it been for them compared to like how long has it been for us?
Yeah, the like Lady Melrose just kind of nods, says, "Ah, yes, I did hear whisperings of that. Your friends," and she gestures back in the direction that the others are in. Says, "Your friends mentioned that it was something of a coincidence that a lot of this seemed to have transpired. But
Yes, we were in
won't
need of a
obviously-
dry dock.
Yes, yes. But in any case, it is still good to see you. If you
Indeed.
have any need of us, then just feel free to find us, and we shall...
And of our companions mentioned that we needed to discuss some matters, or has that not yet been addressed?
Well, not for me, of course, but Lady Risha pipes up and says, we have... there is a matter that I would like to discuss with all of you at some point, but it need not be tonight. There is also...
Should I mention this to my colleagues? Basically, Renji is trying to do what Hikan has already done.
Okay. Says, if you would like to mention it to them. I do not know if you are intending on leaving Sarkoza so soon. We will be here at least until the morning, and then we will be making our way back to Castletown.
I think Renji will then have like a very similar conversation to what Hikan has just had, like where they're staying. Oh, that's very coincidental. That's where we are staying too. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Yeah. As says that there is another person who enters the frame, and this is Miss Quintessa Devore. Enters in and says, "Oh my, would that be Lady Milrose? Oh, it's good to see you again, my dear." And like wanders over and daintily shakes her hand, and she does so in turn. It's like, Miss Devore, well met, well met. I suppose you are here for the sake of trading of artifacts and whatnot. And it's like, yes, of course, by all means. And she looks over and then squints a bit at Risha and says, Oh, I almost didn't recognize you, my dear. Lady Risha, isn't it? I knew of your father before his retirement, of course. And Risha just slowly nods. She doesn't say anything. She just like, hmm.
I would like to observe this.
Okay. And Milrose just says, trying to immediately change the subject. It's like, well, yes, nostalgic ties of all kinds, of course. I suppose I didn't know whether or not you wanted to get along with basic conversations and or just the actual brass tacks of it all. This is a more verbal affair. And Mr. Voss says, "Oh, well, that is quite a thing. There's one pressing matter I wish to discuss with you in regards to shipping things over. I don't know whether or not any of my fellow merchants here have had the mind to do so, but I was wondering in particular in regards to your policy in trading with the other villages within your continent." And there's a pause. It's like, other village. I was supposed to. Might I ask for particular details? And yes. Oh, well, yes, of course. Midos and Vestal, we believe the names are. We know for certain that that things have been troublesome between certain settlements and your kingdom. After all, they are in open rebellion. But it would be worth discussing in this factor whether or not you would be opposed to us trading with them after this whole sordid mess is over, if, of course, that is, they are not part of the kingdom anymore. I did not know whether or not there was any progress on the terms of the war. I have been rather out of the loop, so to speak.
I think I would like to step in and try to persuade her to stop this line of inquiry by saying, "Rest assured, milady, that matter will swiftly be dealt with."
Based off of the tone of voice, yeah, give me a persuasion check.
That is a 33.
So that works very well in the sense that Quintessa kind of looks over and says, well, I do hope that it is. As often as it is in these circumstances, trading with a country in open war is not exactly a terribly easy thing to do. Of course, then, if it is going to be settled fairly swiftly, I have every confidence that we can get back to this, though we can't exactly have terribly decent negotiations. At least we can't discuss this in full until it has been sorted out. So
understandable, and I am sure that given the time frame, you'll not have to exhaust your patience.
Of course. It is a matter which I wish to discuss after all, considering the crux of Fairwind's treasonous dealings prior to his demise. It thought it best to ask, considering the purview of my business would be magical artifacts and ancient curiosities. I wouldn't want to have my business be particularly marred by such a thing. But if it is to be dealt with, then I shall say no more. And she turns back to Lady Milrose and says, "Perhaps we should get a drink and discuss this a little further. To the buffet table, I suppose?" And Lady Milrose says, "Yes, of course. By all means, I will join you there. Risha, are you coming?" Risha says, "I will join you in a moment." And the two trot off, and Risha turns to look at you, Renji, and says, "Thank you.
I hope I was not too much of a bother."
It is perfectly fine. It is, in truth, quite bold of her to have discussed such a thing. But
Indeed, so I did believe as well.
no, I shall save this for when we have our discussion later. In the meantime, again, thank you for your intervention. Try your best to enjoy the party for as much time as you would need to. I believe I should go and rejoin my... I suppose I should go and rejoin my friend in order to make sure business is being done correctly.
I think Renji will conclude by just saying, I found joy in serving the kingdom.
That's good of you to say. It's not a terribly rewarding task in and of itself, it's true. But
I dare say I would disagree. I am decked out in magic items and mithril armor.
It's like a 2-panel comic, or like Lady Risha would say, it's not a terribly rewarding thing, and then off panel is Randy saying, I disagree, it just cuts back, and he's like, it's the same pose where you've gone to the airport wearing everything instead of using a suitcase, but it's all magic glinting jewelry and armor and stuff.
And just piles of treasure behind me.
Yeah. She says, but in any case, it is good that you are doing something to aid the people.
I think I'll just nod, smile.
Yes, well, take care. And she bows her head lightly and turns to rejoin Lady Milrose at the buffet table. Leaving the two of you to make your way back to your companions, who have probably polished off the plate of hors d'oeuvres, and whether or not there is a second one in play is a different factor.
There's always it just goes back and forth.
I think I will also grab at least something. A fish stick or some such.
Yeah. As you get back, there's a you kind of just situate yourselves there for the moment. It's still a nice night. There's still good. The food is at least good. The drink is at least good. It's just, it's amazing how much these people are capable of talking about nothing before getting down to actual business.
I'm always surprised by how well a string quartet can emulate brass instruments.
Yeah.
It's called distortion.
Yes.
But as you kind of sit and eat for a bit, tromping over is the impressive frame of Nathaniel Phaedros, who recognizes Renji and Zayden, and says, excellent, it's both of you. How have you been enjoying the party so far?
The staff have been excellent here. Nothing to truly criticize.
Of course. Only the best upon the glint of fortune. But
I take it you have some time to discuss.
That is exactly the reason why I've come over here. And a greeting to you too, by the way. I have been forewarned that at least one of your number is not exactly particularly fond of handshakes, so I shall refrain unless offered a handshake in turn. And he says, theatrically putting his hands behind his back.
I'm gonna make it clear that it's me, by
Yeah.
rolling an intimidation check.
Okay.
25.
Yeah. He kind of like sees you, and like there's like he does the most minute of leaning of back, just to that it says, I see it is you, but I will not verbalize that.
To introduce you to our companions, this is Hikan Sio. This is Mara. What was Mara's last name again? I forget. This is
Fletcher.
not in character. Mara Fletcher. And you've met our head of customer support, Max.
I am very supportive.
You are though. Like you always sit there and make sure that we're taken care of. Sorry.
He
The
lit.
glare,
Renji will
the
thank
glare
Max.
continues.
Renji will thank Max later on for playing his part perfectly.
Max is the equivalent of putting a feedback label above a shredder.
Yep.
Yes.
But yeah, it says, well, then, by all means, let us continue to business. In this particular instance, instead of discussing it out in the open like this, let us head downstairs. I can provide you an example of the product that I wish to provide to your dear pet shop. Do not worry, there shall be plenty of time to come back up and enjoy the soiree as much as you would like. And he turns and he heads towards a set of doors near the stern that you would assume would head further down into the ship.
All right.
Yeah.
I think as we go below decks, I blink once, twice, thrice, and my eyes adjust to see both the visual spectrum as well as any magical essences.
Okay.
I also glance to see if Lord Simeon is here.
Lord Simeon is not here.
Okay.
It may be possible that he's decided to stay at the inn.
Possibly.
It may be possible that ghosts can't cross running water or something. I don't know.
There might also be those kind of postulations. But yes, detect magic is up for at least 10 minutes.
But yeah, as you look around, there are a few people there who seem to be like a couple of people who are covered in little bits of illusion magic. Nothing too extraneous, but you imagine like glamours to make them just a little bit more fancy and good. And you can see that Quintessa is like radiating magic of various different kinds, like abjuration, illusion, that sort of thing. She seems to be quite, almost as if she's basically popped all of the defensive magical buffs before entering the instanced dungeon that is Glint of Fortune party.
Business dealings are indeed raids.
Glint of Fortune bracket savage.
Yeah.
Extreme.
Oh dear. But yeah. But otherwise, like on the top deck, there isn't much in regards to magical stuff. As you head downstairs, like even Nathaniel seems to be bereft of magic, at least on his person.
What kind of stuff?
Well,
as in,
bereft.
Like, what kind of
No, he doesn't have
all
any.
kind of schools? Oh, bereft. I'm sorry.
He doesn't have any.
My apologies.
That's all right.
That's just a hiccup in my vocabulary there.
That's all right. No worries. Yeah. As you head down, you can see that this this deck of the ship appears to be designed as a kind of a long dining room style sort of it. Despite being a frigate, there's also there's very much a kind of luxury yacht sort of feeling to this kind of ship. It's very gaudy. instead of torches on the walls, there appear to be gemstones that are emitting light through evocation magic. And they perpetually keep this level of the ship lit, despite the fact that it is quite late at night. There are no visible cannons, but you can. Well, there are no visible cannons on this deck, but you can. On your way through, you did see that there were cannons on the ship for basic defense, so they must be on the lower deck. And as he leads you through to another room, you can see kept in a cage appears to be a small creature, roughly the size of a seagull, but it's reptilian in nature and appears to have like wings akin to a bat and a very long head, a long beak-like head with a singular pointed crest on the back of its head. And he says, he turns around and says, "Now this is the type of animal that I would like to provide. Of course, there are other different varieties, but this represents the largest of the animals that I would like to provide to Hyrule and its people, should they wish to purchase it. This would be a miniature pterodactyl." And as he kind of like reaches forward, the thing kind of looks up and like snaps at him, can't get through the cage, and just like
Oh, I have one thing I think that I'd be thinking about. I know in reality there was the trend of mini pigs, and they don't actually stay mini. Does mini pterodactyls actually a thing?
Give me a nature check. It will be quite difficult, but give me a nature check.
I'll have to guidance myself as well then. If only I had some help.
I would. Like
That doesn't know
me,
shit about
me
this.
as a nether, I know that pterodactyls would have kind of like a wingspan of a meter.
A lot.
Like pterodactyls weren't big. There were other creatures that were big, but pterodactyls by themselves were not.
I think the only way Max could help is like knowing what baby animals look like.
Yeah.
I would just ask Mr. Phaedros if this is an adult specimen.
Well, it's been this size for about 3 years.
Did it grow in that period, or before that period?
Well, we had it as an egg, and it hatched, and it has remained this size. Well, it was smaller, of course, but it has remained this size for quite some time.
Insight check.
Go for it.
I mean, I'm sure he's telling the truth, but...
Yeah. As far as magical sight might be concerned, there is nothing that has made this thing any smaller. It seems to be a completely mundane animal, despite the fact that it is nowhere near native to the Kingdom of Hyrule.
Understandable. I mean, we do have, what was it? Those monstrous crows.
Yep.
So I'm not necessarily seeing any signs of this being any more dangerous than what we have in Hyrule, but also I'm not entirely certain if this would be domesticated or able to be kept as a pet just yet.
So
here's an excellent question.
Yeah. So
even though I know that the insight wasn't there, I'll wait.
To sum it all up, Zayden, with your 12 nature, it's difficult to say. Like you feel like any creature that has the descriptor of miniature means that there was something artificial that went into making it so small, if they are to remain as small as they are. But it's very difficult to say for the sake of, because pterodactyls are not, or dinosaurs in general are not native to the continent of Hyrule, of which you know the natural world quite well. It's hard to say in either case whether or not this particular creature is part of a defined species all of its own, or if this is an aberration of something that is meant to be much larger, or in fact much smaller. Hikan, with your 11 insight, you can't really tell with Phaedros. He seems to be very, like, he hasn't dropped the energy that he has had since anyone has encountered him tonight. He's very loud, very boisterous, very in your face. So it might just be that if he is not telling the truth, he's just very good at being a salesperson. And Max, you get something of the same thing with it, but there's a couple of things that kind of occur to you in particular. Firstly, he mentioned previously that there was that creatures that he wanted to give to Flamgo to sell as part of a trade agreement wouldn't necessarily just be this thing. It would be dinosaurs like it, just no bigger than it. Whether or not that means that he'll provide Flamgo with like eggs or baby versions of those creatures, and then if they become larger after the sale, it's not a problem anymore. That's something that kind of trips you briefly. The other thing that kind of occurs to you at this instance is the thing in the cage. If he's had it for that many years, why is it still A, in the cage, and B, why did it snap at him when he got closer?
I'm just gonna imagine doesn't seem to like you very much.
Well, I suppose it might be a bit grouchy, considering we've had to take quite the trip to get here. But, I'm sure he'll be fine in certain times.
Titan's gonna, just step to the back of it and say, I just need to do something. He'll start mumbling to himself, ritual casting, speaking of animals.
Yes.
How many of these are there?
Quite a few. Of course, not all creatures on Holodrum are so easily tamed, but we have our own selection for the sake of both being beasts of burden and also beasts of domestication.
If it's
and of
so
course,
tame, why is it in a cage?
well, animals are wont to wander, and it was quite the journey over the sea. We wouldn't want it to get lost now.
Right, the room was shut when we got here.
Well, true, but can't take many chances, can you? It's this your 20 insight, and then immediately tells you he probably knows jack shit about animals. Meanwhile, with
Unfortunately, Max knows jack shit about conversations, so he's not going to be good at arguing.
yeah, as your ritual cast speak with animals goes on, you connect to it, and the pterodactyl just kind of like is looking about. Doesn't say anything just yet, but then if you address it, it's like, what? Hello?
I do wonder, if I have ritual cast speak of animals and telepathy, can I telepathize with it?
I don't know. I'm not sure if they stack.
Any creature?
Knowledge awareness is limited to intelligence, but at minimum, beast can give you
If
information
it
about
understands
nearby.
at least one
It has
language.
to understand a language, yeah.
I see.
I don't
Yeah.
know if speak with animals makes it understand a language.
If it understands at least one language, it can respond to you telepathically. That is about the response. You can communicate telepathically with any creature you can see within 30 feet of you.
Relatives, and it has to yell back out loud.
Yeah.
So you have speak with animals, so if it speaks, you can understand it, and you can speak to it telepathically.
I suppose that's true. By the wording of the spell, you can, even if it doesn't understand you, you can shout at it, and then if it can't understand you, it won't be able to respond. But yeah, okay, that makes sense. So you can say something mentally, and then the pterodactyl says, "What? What was that? Hello?
Was me, little one.
Ah!" And meanwhile, the rest of you is like, suddenly it seems as if this pterodactyl has gotten quite uppity and it's just squeaking and quawking and stuff. Nathaniel just kind of like glances at this rambunctious little thing, and then just keeps going on to you. But yeah, the pterodactyl says, hello?
How was your trip over?
I don't know. I've been in this cage for a while. It takes its time, I suppose. It's kind of rough on a couple times.
See, what do you think of this man here? And just gesture at him slightly.
Well, he put me in a cage, so I don't know. Not a fan. I'm not sure exactly what he wants. He gives me food, but
How long have you known him?
He's trying to think of ways to kind of explain it, and he says, "A couple cycles. It's been a lot of light and dark outside."
Fair. So, not since your birth?
No.
Did you know any humanoids at your birth?
A couple.
I see. If you were let out of the cage, would you attack?
Probably not. I probably want to go outside, but I don't know where I am.
Well, I can probably take you outside, but you are somewhere foreign, so I'd advise you stay near enough to me. You don't want to get lost, I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure you want to spread your wings a little.
Little bit.
Okay, let me see if I can take you out for a bit. Right, Zidon will now look up and say, I believe I can handle taking him outside if we are just so that he can see the world a bit.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
I think it'll be fine.
Zidon here is our resident zoologist. Maybe beastmaster, but might be better term.
I see. Well, by all means, if the little one wishes to stretch his wings, go for it. I would say it would be a fine idea.
Zidon will move over to open the cage and offer like an arm for him to climb up on.
You open the cage and it scrambles onto your arm.
While the cage is being opened and hopefully the jackass is looking at it, I'm gonna lean over to Renji and whisper, "He doesn't know shit about this thing."
Well, crud. I will then whisper back. I think it might be best to pause any imports.
Mm-hmm.
As you
I can hear them whispering. I would like to pop up between them
Good.
and whisper, well, if they can get somebody that can do some of the same stuff that Zidon can do, I think I'd feel more comfortable with it, given, well, any kind of gestures towards Zidon and the pterodactyl.
Unfortunately, I don't think everyone who buys these things can do what Zidon can do.
I meant more that, like, the person who's bringing them over, if it was a thing.
Good point.
But yes, you take the pterodactyl outside. Everyone on the top deck is too busy with their own nonsense to notice. But they're also all from Holodrum anyway, so they probably are familiar with seeing things like that.
Would they be
And
familiar with someone having one on their arm as a pet?
a couple of them.
All right. I mean, that's a point in their favor.
It's mostly like if you were to observe people outside long enough, you might consider the possibility of someone having a pterodactyl on their arm to someone like someone from Holodrum would look to someone with a pterodactyl on their arm to be as similar to someone from Hyrule seeing someone with a falcon on their arm. So it's, I mean, granted, it's not a one-to-one representation, but the average person...
Pterodactyls get a bit bigger.
Yeah, pterodactyls get a bit bigger, and also the average person doesn't, like, even by Hyrule standards, the average person doesn't keep a falcon. Like, you still have to have, purposeful training in falconry in order to hold and keep a bird of prey like that. It's not something that just any person on the street would be able to then, like, it's not it's not like it's not an easy pet to have. But yeah, Zayden, you emerge from the top deck and you let loose the pterodactyl. It flaps around and flies around the mast a couple times and then returns to your arm. And it mentions to you that it's quite cold.
I was about to ask. Okay. I'll look to Renji and use telepathy, I think, to say our earlier concerns about the climate for them seems quite valid. He's already cold.
I will then look over to Mr. Phaedros and say, "Oh, the poor dear's shivering. Look at him."
Oh, really? Oh, that is unfortunate. Maybe best to get him back inside where it's warm.
That might actually be a good idea. It seems... Well, it's only, of course, just a glance, but he doesn't seem very suited to our climb, does he?
Of course, that does seem like a valid concern. Well, if that is the case, then by all means, we need not move forward with this, at least not yet. If you do change your mind, or if you do find something that is worthwhile in this venture, by all means, you just need to send a letter, and I'm sure in a month or two, when I get to see it, then we shall be able to discuss matters in a different factor. But if you think it is unwise to continue on this venture, then I shall not stop you.
It does seem that a creature such as this, with this size, and I mean, I did notice the jaw, and it seems capable of defending itself, at least. Such a creature in the hands of a layman would do more harm than good.
Oh, yes.
That plus the issues with the climate. I do not believe that a pterodactyl would be suitable for Hyrulean Hyrulean citizenry.
Perhaps so. Well, it was always worth trying to open up some kind of trade in that regard. But if it just doesn't work out, then it simply does not work out. But that does not necessarily mean that we cannot come to some other arrangement in other factors, not necessarily in the realm of livestock or domesticated pets or whatnot. So as said, if you do wish to open any kind of trade, be it for your little pet shop venture or in any other capacity, then you just need to get in touch.
Well, we five are only in charge of our pet's shop. However, I am certain that, I believe I saw some representatives of the Hyrulean government at this party just now, and they would be happy to discuss any other dealings, I believe.
Ah, excellent. Very well. I shall go and speak with them at once. I do thank you for your time. I trust that you were able to return the little one to his cage. And I will get to schmoozing. Take care. And thank you again for your attendance. It is rather lovely to meet all of you. And he takes a theatrical
Likewise.
bow. And he turns and makes his way back into the party. A little thing in the corner of your screen says Milrose and Risha will remember this as you set Nathaniel Phaedros on them.
I believe yeah.
It's their job.
But that's
As-
also
as-
their job, yes.
As he walks off, Matthew says, I don't like him.
Me neither.
He seems like a more polite rickshaw.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's worse.
I haven't talked to him about any particular ethics or moral quandaries just yet. So I can't say if he is as bad.
Well, he didn't, he gave us the time of day, so he's better, technically.
Yeah.
It's a little low bar to clear.
It's a very low bar, that sense. Yeah, he didn't seem particularly bothered by talking to us Sheikah.
Do they even have Shiga and Holodrum?
No, but I am certain. I mean, wherever there is life, there are people that look or act different from the established elite, as it were.
But yes. After that encounter, whether or not you actually put the pterodactyl back in its cage or not, the rest of the party kind of goes on without incident. There is a brief dance, but it is just kind of
It's just schmoozing while spinning.
yeah, it is schmoozing while spinning. It is continual conversation, and it's difficult to really. And because the band only know the one or two songs, it's difficult to really kind of go
They're
through
only
with
allowed
it.
to play.
Yeah.
Mm.
At some point, Max does get just too bored and leaves.
Mm.
Yeah, that's fair. When Max goes, Mara will take that to the cue. It's like, oh, we're allowed to go. Okay, and just
Finally, someone left. I was waiting for the first person to leave.
yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. But yeah. And then
I would kindly like to just give, if there is a dance, Hikan will stay for the dance before leaving, and would kindly give Milrose and Risha both a moment away from schmoozing.
I think I will help in that endeavor.
Okay. But yeah. And they're both quite thankful of it, though they don't particularly they understand that it's their jobs, but they do make mention that that they were not particularly impressed with you specifically setting Phaedros on them. It's like, okay, so they were going to have to talk to him eventually, but the fact that you pointed him in their direction is a different matter.
How dare you make us talk to him sooner?
Yeah. They weren't nearly drunk enough. It's fine.
I hadn't yet allocated the spoons for him, damn it.
But yeah, the but they're happy to be away from the schmoozing for a bit. Milrose especially, because she is very not suited. Well, she's not that she's not suited to it. She does a very good job as being Lady of Commerce, but she's also not particularly a big fan of the whole high society sort of lifestyle. So having the ability to just not be in that seat and be able to be herself for a bit is refreshing for her. And Risha's just
Go ahead.
Risha is kind of the same mindset, just in the sense of having a moment to not be Lady Risha, Lady of Defense, is beneficial for her in a way.
While we're dancing, knowing that Milrose was an adventurer, does Milrose have a weapon on her?
Give me a perception check.
Okay. Natural 20 for 29.
Nice.
She doesn't, but what you do notice from your training as a monk is that she carries herself with the poise and standard of an unarmed fighter. But she's not like a martial artist monk sort of person. She hasn't gone to a temple. You can tell that she stands with a straight back, shoulders up and to the back, and whenever she stands still, she stands in a kind of feet shoulder length apart, knees slightly bent, in the sense that a pugilist ready to box is kind of carries himself in, especially when she's backed into a corner with people talking to people that she hasn't really spoken to much before. So chances are she's not armed, but maybe she doesn't need to be.
That doesn't dissuade the theory that I had, which is not necessarily a good one.
Oh.
I don't think it is, but it would be quite funny. Okay. So while we're dancing, I think I'm gonna just try to speak very quietly. And then I'll ask, do you know what the cult's looking for? The one that did the thing with Mazro? Because I'm sure she's heard about it.
Oh, well, not in particular. It's not a matter of defense, so I haven't been given many bits and pieces of information. I have heard they are looking for something or someone in particular, but not exactly terribly important information. Why?
Because they were looking for women with red hair, and I didn't think about it before, and I wanted to make sure that everyone's known and is safe, type of thing. And I'd like to roll an insight. I would like to name drop in this explanation the Arbiter. I'd like to roll an insight check on Milrose.
Okay.
I don't think it is, but it's a red-haired person that knows how to fight, like a sword would. Soft 20.
Soft 20. Okay.
Note to self: make a character who has a sapient sword who doesn't know how to fight. So help me fight the sword, and so I was like, I don't fucking know what to do. You just swing me around, I just get dizzy. Oh.
That would actually be really good. I like it. But yeah. So her response to this is she does seem a little bit taken aback by your suggestion. She kind of thinks a moment, as if weighing a response, and says, Well, I'm not exactly sure why they would be looking for me in particular, unless they are just a fan of women with red hair. And she kind of thinks again and says, "Have there been other women who have been missing because of this particular quality?"
Fuck it, I trust Melrose. No one else is here to stop me. Yeah, I'll just kind of explain honestly that the thing that we saw with the with the tapestry of a woman with red hair walking out of a sword. In regards to the Arbiter.
Kind of thinks and then shakes her head a little and says, "Can't say I would be able to provide much aid. Nothing seems to come to mind. Most of my adventuring days had just been odd jobs and taking care of bandits and the occasional bokoblin problem. That was really it. I never really encountered any kind of cult before. It was fairly mundane, if I was to be honest. But if I can provide some form of aid, I will be happy to. It would certainly be a damn sight more interesting than my usual day-to-day.
That's fair. I know you came with guards and you're here with Lady Risha and everything's normally good. I just wanted to make sure you were staying safe and we're aware if you're walking around the kingdom.
That's awfully sweet of you. Thank you very much.
Which is good because I didn't want to kill Melrose. Melrose is sweet.
Oh dear. Yeah, she says, "Well, yes. Well, thank you very much for looking out for me. If I do find any information, I will, or if anything does come up that is quite interesting, I will send it your way."
Okay, thank you.
And yeah, after a brief amount of time, they have their batteries are recharged enough to return to schmoozing and diplomatizing and whatnot. And considering the time, I think unless there is anything particularly pressing people want to do at the party, I'll say that the rest of the evening kind of just carries on as it would do, with nothing particularly out of the ordinary happening. And after a while, those who remain long enough start to see dignitaries leaving the ship or heading to the lower decks in order to turn in for the night, and the party winds down in a rather unspectacular fashion.
Max has just slowly walked back to the inn with Maro.
Yeah.
I think Renji will then have to pump 2 spell slots into 2 thunder steps to sink the ship, and that's it for the night. This is, of course, a joke.
I was gonna say.
Why are we singing this shit?
But yes. So
I am not going to do some sort of face heel turn where it's like, this has been too pleasant altogether. I will now commit violence.
It is time for crime.
Crime time.
I mean, if we want to sink the ship,
crime will now commence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we want to sink the ship, Max isn't here. I could just go below decks and use the Quake Medallion. It'll be fine.
Don't. You'll know.
But yeah, thank you everybody so much for watching. This has been ArticulateT with Legend of Zelda Hyrule Chronicles Special Centennial Episodes Part 2. With me as always, I have had Renji Vox being played by Nalad.
That was me. Thank you very much for being here.
I have had Hikan Sio being played by Alvrans.
You want to talk about next week after these?
Yes,
or next
I
session?
will.
Yeah.
Actually, yes. After we've gone through people, we will. Yeah. I've had Zayden Shari being played by Robert Pirate.
Well,
And I have had Max being played by Keistrith.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. And we'll see you guys next time, which is actually going to be a little bit different. Because our usual game day falls on Halloween, instead of playing Zelda for that day, we have a special Halloween one-shot run by Alvarance using Chronicles of Darkness system, which is going to be very interesting indeed.
Yes.
I'm particularly excited about it because I would like to learn the system. And yeah,
You get to be a player.
I get to be a player.
Yeah.
Yeah. But until then, we'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody. Bye bye now.